Hi, my name is Candace Keene and I'm doing this video today for my Law 12 big question on police and procedure. Today's question asks, should suspects be forced to provide DNA samples for testing against their wishes? Well, vital questions relating to crime and punishment have been answered using technology and science to identify DNA samples and link them to specific people or crimes, so they've become very useful. A long time ago, there may have been a lot of people that were punished unfairly for crimes and may have actually went and received the death penalty or lethal injection. Basically, there may have been people who spent lots of years of their life or actually lost their lives due to being unfairly convicted for crimes. So DNA testing is quite important, but the bigger question is, does it violate people's rights to force them to give samples of their DNA if they're involved in a crime? Basically, it is against people's charter rights to be arbitrarily detained for no reason, and also nobody can be automatically required to provide a sample of their DNA without due course, unless, of course, this person was involved in a violent crime or something that involved like a sexual assault. Those types of crimes, people should be and are required to provide DNA samples. This technology could benefit the suspects who are innocent, like I was saying. It can exclude people from crimes. Anyways, that said, the Canadian National DNA Data Bank opened in June 2000, and that is a source for all of the DNA samples that have been collected during Canadian crimes. Now, the DNA profiles are from one of two categories. There is a special category for convicted offenders, and then there's another category for DNA samples and tissue samples that are from unsolved crime scenes. So the Canadian DNA Bank is actually part of the RCMP National Police Services, so the police are able to directly access this to solve crimes, which is very important. And it's definitely, it's valuable to all law enforcement agencies across Canada. The DNA Data Bank helps investigators identify suspects, link crime scenes where there are no suspects, and also eliminate suspects, like we said, and to determine if a serial offender may be involved in a crime or a number of crimes. Under the Canadian Criminal Code, judges can order those convicted of designated offenses to provide samples of DNA for analysis and for indexing in the Canadian National DNA Data Bank. The two types of offenses that are considered for requirement for DNA collection by suspects, there's primary and secondary offenses, basically. Primary offenses are things like murder, manslaughter, sexual assaults, and very serious and indictable crimes of a violent and serious nature. The secondary offenses are things deemed to be less serious. Arson is listed, although arson is still quite serious. It is considered to be less serious. But for these types of crimes, it is still necessary for DNA to be collected from these offenders, especially if they aren't caught and they reoffend. Like we said before, that crimes can be linked. It's very important that this information is only used strictly for law enforcement. People shouldn't be afraid or paranoid if they have their DNA information on file. It could save their life. It could exclude them from a crime, like we said before a couple times, and there's a lot of ways your DNA information being on file can help. But in this case, these DNA records in particular are only allowed to be used by law enforcement. Medical research and that type of thing is absolutely a no-no for these records, so that is not what they're used for. So only those found of the primary offenses under the Canadian Criminal Code can be forced to provide the DNA samples. Nobody else can be forced to provide them. That law may change in the future with changing technology. It's quite possible that everybody will have to have their DNA indexed and that laws will change, but as it stands now, of April 2013, these are our laws and this is what our criminal code covers. Anyways, I hope you've enjoyed my video. Thanks for watching.